Have you ever wondered what it takes to be a mechanical engineer at a Fortune 100 company? Today, I'm talking with Zach Sharpell, an engineer at Qualcomm. In his words, I design products from a blank sheet of paper to real assemblies used in autonomous vehicles and at the heart of AI servers. This means the products I work on must survive some pretty intense situations. For autonomous cars, these products need to work in upwards of 160 degrees continuously and as low as negative 40 degrees. For AI servers, these products never sleep, they are never turned off, and they don't get any breaks, and they cannot fail. I think of my job as creating the real version of whatever you dream up. So, welcome to the show, Zach. Tell us more about what you do as a mechanical engineer at Qualcomm.
Thanks, Loxley. Yeah, my job as a mechanical engineer is really exciting. I think of it as the real job of making cool Lego creations, right? So we start literally with a blank sheet of paper, a blank whiteboard, and we think we need to make something for an autonomous vehicle. Maybe it's a new chip, maybe it's some new part, and we have to create this from nothing. So we do a lot of iteration, which is creating ideas, developing them, looking into it, and we say, well, maybe that's a good idea, maybe it's not a good idea. So it's this churn and burn phase, right? Brainstorm. We have to think of all these different things, and then we down select into our final product. And we go through this detailed design phase, and eventually we make it. A long, long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, this would take years, right? Back when we went to the moon, it did take years. This is all done by hand. Nowadays, we use a lot of computers, a lot of simulation, a lot of horsepower that's digital, and we go from a blank sheet of paper to a real product, sometimes as quick as a couple of weeks. Sometimes it's 9 months, 12 months, whatever it may be. But it's really exciting. It literally is just creating something from nothing, which has always excited me. But now it's my real job, and I can't think of anything else I'd rather do.
And I know because we talk a lot, you're always involved with whatever Qualcomm is creating for the CES show, which is a
Yes.
huge, huge deal in the technology world. And you always have to work through Christmas. So, kind of talk just a little bit about that.
Yeah, so most of the time my colleagues will pack up and say, "Hey, I'll see you in a couple weeks." I'm like, "Yeah, I'll see you in a couple weeks." And that's for me when the real fun begins, right? The machine shop is closed down, but my access doesn't close. That means the training that I learned in college of how to use mills, lathes, CNC machines, that's where I get to go and do it myself. And it's really exciting because this is the think of it like recess, right? When you're a kid, you're learning in your classroom, you're doing it, it's pretty structured, and then you go outside and you play, right? You're hanging on monkey bars, running around. That's honestly what it feels like when you're preparing for CES this year, right? CES 2026. It ended a couple of weeks ago, and the big push was physical AI, which you can think of it as robotics, humanoids, anything where AI is inside something doing it, not an LLM that you're interfacing with on a browser, but something real in the world. And that means we literally had to make a robot from nothing. We didn't make those before. That's not our real job, but we had to figure it out. So we did a lot of 3D printing. I was in the machine shop just working on the machinery itself, just trying to put this together because this is not something where I'm going to go buy this off the shelf. We are making the first of its kind. A couple of years ago, we made a car. It was a $5 million car. It's 100% custom made, one of one carbon fiber body. It's a Frankenstein of a vehicle, and it's very exciting. I got to drive it once, almost crashed it, but it was very exciting. And this is CES, right? It is like Disneyland, but at Qualcomm. So you'll see me just driving around campus, every different building, probably drinking a coffee and making this stuff happen in a couple of weeks' time.
What is one of the coolest skills that you learned that you thought would never matter, but it absolutely does?
So that's an excellent question. And I say it's cool because of what you can do with it. And when I was a kid, I would hear this and I would just roll my eyes like, "Ugh, are you kidding me? That is so lame." And it's creative writing. And I say creative writing because as an engineer, we take courses on how to be creative because as you go into school, you learn how to do things a certain way and you tend to lose a little bit of that creativity. But what I find really important even today is this creativity because This isn't just getting into a college entrance exam. This isn't just talking to somebody on the street and saying, hey, I do cool stuff. I go to Hawaii, I surf, whatever it is, right? This is presentations, right? This is real stuff. When I present to upper level people, I can make a boring slideshow that has one image and six bullet points, and I can talk in a monotonous tone. And I say, here's my product. It's made like this. It goes this fast. Nobody cares, right? They want it exciting. So when I have creative writing, it filters into everything else. Like when you think of these books about adding, right? It's exciting. This you can visualize yourself in there. When we had the Journey to Mars competition, right? You could visualize yourself on the space station and see what it was like. And this creative writing skill will carry you through so much because people love to read good writing. They like to hear interesting stories. That's how we've connected for thousands of years. And that's why I think it's a really cool skill that's really important.
Yes, I agree completely with you on that. Okay, now let's imagine you're at the CES show and
All right.
you hand your business card to someone, might be like this, you know, pinnacle person you've always wanted to meet. And this person looks at you and says, "Okay, describe yourself in 3 words so that when I look at this business card again, I'll be able to imagine exactly who you are." What
Mm.
3 words would you use?
That is excellent. So my words are unconventional, but I think they suit me pretty well. I know my friends would agree. Number one, I'm inquisitive. All the way back since I was a kid, I always ask questions. I'm pretty sure my parents wanted me to stop asking questions, but that's what engineers do. We ask questions. We want to find answers. We want to solve problems. I'm also realistic. So while I can create some pretty wild ideas, I have a tendency to look at that and say, that's a great idea. And that's where it stops because in my mind and in my profession, I realize I will need to make this. It needs to be manufacturable. It needs to be cost effective. I'm not going to make a gold bar because that's just ridiculously expensive. It'd be super cool, but very expensive. And then the final one, it's hyphenated, but whatever. It's type A. I am definitely a type A person. If I see something that's 1 millimeter off on one side or 1 millimeter longer on one side than the other, that bugs me. I have to fix it. My wife calls me out on all the time and she'll say like, that really bugged you, didn't it? I'm like, yes, it really did. And it feels so good to have fixed it.
What is a skill that you use every week that you didn't realize was a skill until later?
Public speaking every day,
Yes.
right? This is huge. I in school didn't care much about it, right? You learn how to write really well. You use these gigantic 12th grade words because you have to take an SAT exam and get your college. That's fantastic. Not one of those words is used in my daily conversations today. Being conversational, asking questions, reacting, and not being monotone. That's that's huge. Like that is the name of the game right there. Even as an engineer, if I were sitting behind a computer all day, maybe I could get away with not having conversations, but that's just the lifeblood. That's the culture of Qualcomm. We want to be in person and you want to feed back and forth off of each other's energy.
Yes. Yes, public speaking is important for anyone regardless of what you're doing. Whether you're
Yes.
an engineer at Qualcomm or you're a fighter jet pilot in the military, you gotta be able to speak. So, love that answer. Next, what helped you more? Learning how to talk, listen, or recover after messing up?
What helped me the most would be listening. And my justification for that is I historically have not been good at listening. I anticipate what people say. And about halfway through their question, honestly, I probably stop listening and I'm already formulating my answer. And that's gotten me into trouble. While I can be clever with my words, right? Creative writing leads into creative speaking. That doesn't necessarily mean it's a good experience for the other side because more often than not, they're well aware I tuned out and I'm already formulating my answer. So listening has been a skill that I've had to really work hard at. I read books at, I work on it pretty much every day where I'm intently listening to somebody, making sure that I'm understanding the context, but also the intent of their words so that when I respond, I'm not going to ramble around in a spiral downwards and dig myself a hole. I want to give the answer, and there we go. But listening, 100% important because that will prevent you from getting into the bad positions first.
So now shifting over to the books. In book number 2, TikTok Take Charge, Addie, our little character who is the 15-year-old inventor who's just taking everything apart, putting it back together. She has decided to build an e-bike out of spare parts. And we all know I have a little bit of experience with building the e-bike from a couple of summers ago. So that got written into the book. And it's a lot of curiosity on her part. When did curiosity actually change your path?
Curiosity changed my path. I think it was around 4 or 5 years old. I remember my entire life liking Legos, but I didn't always do them myself. I watched my sister and my dad build these Legos, and I was like, hey, that's really cool. And then one time, me being me, I was inquisitive, right? That's one of my words. I started asking questions. Apparently, I asked too many questions because I remember my dad getting up and saying, you know what, Zach, you can build it. I'm like, okay, let's give it a shot. Me being maybe overly inquisitive, overly curious, led me to build my first Lego airplane. And from that point on, I remember it as a defining point. I loved building things. I don't know why. I remember in third grade, I built a 5 foot tall Saturn V rocket for show and tell. It was taller than me. Like I had to have my dad help me bring it into the classroom because it was so big. And I went completely outside of the instruction manual. This was just hand built, brain made. That's it. And I loved it. I eventually figured out that's what mechanical engineers do. But as a kid, people were like, what do you want to do? I'm like, I don't know. I just want to build things. And like, do you want to build houses? I'm like, no, that's a house. I want to build things like rockets, cars, apparently AI servers. I didn't think that was really a thing when I was a kid, but that is where it was really defining moment. And it's because I asked too many questions.
Yeah, yeah. Now, what is one small thing that a kid could practice this week that would help them later?
Work on your most impressive muscle. Not a muscle, but it's in here. It's your brain, your creativity muscle. This is so powerful. I work on some of the most powerful chipsets in the world, and they are unreal, but they are nothing compared to our brain. And if you train your brain, you give it a workout daily, it will reap rewards for the rest of your life. And it's incredible. Like this, the organic chemistry that we have going on in our cranium is unfathomable. And you can harness it. Everybody can harness it, but you have to train it. You have to think for yourself. You can't just always type it into a prompt and say, hey, Copilot, what's the answer for this? It'll give you an answer, but it's important to understand context, understand why it's thinking the way it's thinking, because you always have this upper edge, right? A computer
Yes.
is very fast, but you are so creative and you can come up with ideas that even AI would like, where'd you pull that from, dude? Like that's funky. But train your brain. You got to flex it.
Exactly. And I can agree with that in so many ways because this week I did a lot of website development. A lot of people just look at it and look at it like, oh, that's a big pile of spaghetti. And I did use AI, but I had to know what to ask and had to know like all of the pieces that come together in order to ask AI a couple of questions to answer. So you do have to have that common sense. You have to have that knowledge. You can't rely on a computer to do everything for you. You need to use this big muscle right here for as much as you can. So,
You can think of it this way. Last little comment, right? So you think of NVIDIA's CEO. We all know who he is, right? The classic black jacket. It's much fancier than the black jacket I'm wearing. His comment, which I thought was very interesting one time, was you won't necessarily lose your job to AI, but you'll lose it to people who use it better than you do. And that's an important distinction because using it is not bad. It's knowing how to use it and making yourself more efficient. That's really the key, I think, in the future.
thank you for being on the show with us, Zach. And thank you for watching Books That Build Skills. If today's story sparked an idea or gave you courage or helped you see what's possible, then it did its job. Now remember, skills are not born, they are built. One choice, one challenge, one brave step at a time. So hit subscribe, share this with someone who needs it, and keep exploring and building and reading and dreaming big. I'm Loxley Brown. This is Books That Build Skills. And you're just getting started.